Welcome to another edition of Conversations Different, a podcast from the Santa Fe New Mexican focusing on interesting people and issues of northern New Mexico. I'm Inez Russell Gomez, and this week we are talking to Diana Tarasiewicz, Director of Nutrition Services for Santa Fe Public Schools, the top lunch lady for the district. Welcome, Diana.
Thank you so much for having me.
I wanted to start just with some basic facts, like how many kids, when classes are going, will eat every day in Santa Fe Public Schools?
Per day, we do anywhere from 10,000 to 11,000 meals in all the schools.
And it's not just lunch anymore.
No, it's breakfast, lunch. We have snack programs, after-school programs. We have breakfast in the classroom. So there are a lot of different meals being served.
And not all of them are made at the school cafeteria, the way, some of us remember from when we were little. How does all of that work?
And that's called satelliting. We actually have satellite schools just because we're fairly short on staff, like anybody
Yes.
around these days. And, some positions we haven't been able to fill. Also, one of our schools is under construction, so we've had to combine two schools. So the schools that do not produce the food, that don't have a staff, in-house staff that is actually cooking, still eat the same thing that all the other schools eat. We produce it fresh. We load it into hot boxes, cars, trucks, helicopters if we wish, and then get them around, so that they're served on time. So yes, we wish, all the schools, I think except for one, have kitchens. So we should be able to cook, but we just don't have the staff. And some of them are fairly small, like Tesuke. So, it makes more sense in terms of dollars, since we have to use federal funds and public funds that, we want to economize and do it as the best we can with the money that we have.
Okay, that makes sense. I know when I was a kid at West Las Vegas, they didn't have a cafeteria at North Public, so we got bused to the middle school. And so they didn't bring the food to us, they brought the kids to the food. And that was, I don't think, very efficient. And we would sometimes hide in the bathroom and go get a burrito at Stella's instead. And that was probably the most rebellious thing I did as a child.
Well, that's not too bad.
No. Well, in those days, the lunch was really, really awful. And they made us eat it all. And what you would do is you would open your milk carton and you would pile the food in the milk carton and then throw it away when they weren't looking, because it was not good. It was just terrible. But that's not the case in Santa Fe, we hope. And talk about because you're new at Nutrition Services. You're the new director. How did you get to this position, and what interested you in feeding kids?
I've been in a similar position when I lived in Colorado. I worked for School District 51 in Grand Junction, and we had a few more schools. We had 38 schools, and I was one of the I was called an area director, but I also, because I'm a chef by training, I was hired to transition School District 51 from processed food to scratch cooking again. So it was really a great time. This was over 10 years ago, so Colorado was just a little ahead, and it was a great place to be because I learned a ton. But the way I worked was go into kitchens and work with the staff, test recipes there, test recipes with the kids. And so, we're going to use some of those same methods, although, a lot of great things are already in place. So I'm not going to, my role is not to reinvent the wheel. It's just to move everything forward.
That makes sense. And it seems like, scratch cooking for 5 people at home is a lot different from scratch cooking for 100 or, 1,000 or 11,000. Right. So how do you take those little things to make them big things?
It's math. Really, you do it by math. It's because since we have to follow federal regulations, it's 2 ounces of meat, so much of grain. So you really scale up recipes using math and using the right serving tools. It's just a little more time consuming, but you can use some of the same recipes that you use at home in a way. Obviously, we have to meet the sodium requirements, the sugar requirements, fat. It's a fairly tight regulation. So unfortunately, I love salt. but when I taste what we have to serve, it's like, oh my gosh, this needs salt, and the kids also would like more. So it's a bit of a struggle, but you can make things taste really great using different methods, more spices, or the way you combine ingredients. There are a lot of kitchen tricks we can use,
and that's healthier for the kids. I mean,
yes,
because I was thinking about the challenges you have. You have children who don't have food at home, so they're hungry. Right. Then you have kids who just want to eat junk food because that's just what they eat. Maybe they're not hungry, but they're actually nutritionally deficient. Right. Then you have kids with allergies. When my son was in elementary school here, they used to give you a peanut butter sandwich if you were behind on your lunch payments.
I remember that.
He was allergic to peanut butter. It would have killed him. Mm-hmm. And I had to go to the school and say, do not ever give him a peanut butter sandwich. Call me, or, you could get almond butter. You could do something else. And of course, now the lunches are free. So Correct. That's a big improvement. But how do you balance all of the challenges you have to meet, the guidelines and the condition of the kids going forward?
We have a nutritionist in-house, which is really wonderful. So we work on the menus with him for all the schools, and he knows about all the restrictions. If a child has a specific allergy or so, those are always registered with a school nurse.
Yep.
And, the kitchen staff, the kitchen team is really good. I mean, some of them know all the kids by name, and they're like their kids. So they know who's allergic to what. And we have lists of allergens. I mean, we have a new one that was just added, which is sesame seeds. Sesame is now...
that's a bummer.
Yeah, it's huge because there goes, half the Asian food. So we just constantly reformulate and try and stay ahead of all the things that can happen. And consequently, the food is not, restaurant food, but it's still really tasty, very nutritious food that is going to give them what they need to, to be a great student during the day.
Do you have numbers on how much of the food is eaten versus how much is tossed?
We do, because every day the kitchen manager fills out production records. And so we have what is projected, and we project by what the enrollment is, and knowing, usually we have 80% of the students come and eat. Even now that it's free, not everybody eats still. Right. Like you sneaking off for that burrito. They do the same. Yep. If it's an open campus.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Anything goes. But it's, you juggle. You really, really juggle all those components, and you make it work.
That's a good place to take a break. We'll be back in a minute with more Conversations Different.
Are you dreaming of a home of your own in Santa Fe, but feel like your finances aren't where they need to be? HomeWise is here to help. We offer free financial coaching and classes in English and Spanish that will help you proactively manage your money and get you qualified for the best mortgage loan possible. Contact us today to register for an in-person or online class, or to speak with a home purchase advisor who you can work with one-on-one to help you increase your savings, reduce your debt, and improve your credit score. Call 505-983-9473 or visit us at homewise.org. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 188231.
We are back with Conversations Different, talking to Deanna, who's Director of Nutrition Services for Santa Fe Public Schools. One of the things that you'll be dealing with in your first year is the public education department wants to change the rules for how kids are fed in New Mexico at the public schools. And I know that's pretty complicated, and a lot of schools are pushing back, saying we can't get there this fast. You are an expert in this because you were at the public education department.
I'm thrilled that I was able to be there, because it just gives us an edge. It really does. We do have a whole year to get everything implemented, so it'll give us enough time to really fine-tune everything and make sure we meet all the criteria for reimbursement, for which I'm still under the impression that we are getting extra reimbursement for Senate Bill 4 for complying, but we already do a lot of the things that are in Senate Bill 4. And when I was writing the compliance document, one of the items is composting. Santa Fe schools have, let's see, 68% of our schools already compost. So we're there. We don't have to worry about that. Kitchen gardens, that's another item on the list. We have 28 schools and we have 11 gardens so far. So we would only need 3 more gardens. And the gardens, I think people are panicking because they're like, oh my gosh, we don't have to grow all the carrots for, Tuesday's lunch or something like that. So long the kids get some nutrition education and education in gardening and to know where their food comes from. That's the biggest part. And so what I've been advising everyone, and I'm working with Cooking with Kids on this because they're a really big part of what we do and of education for the kids and taste testing is they're going to be growing a lot of herbs. And herbs are easy. If
Right.
you have oregano, you can put that in all your tomato sauce products.
You could just put a window box in every classroom if you wanted to.
Exactly, you
Yeah.
could. But some have really, really nice gardens in the back. I mean, it's really wonderful. I mean, I highly recommend, any parent to go and take a look at some of those if they can with their kids because they've done an amazing job. And they're mostly in elementary,
Right.
which actually I think is the best. I mean, that's where I like to taste test new recipes because those kids are like sponges. They're just wonderful. They're so much more open to trying something new. It's like, oh, pea pods, You go to a high school with that and they're like, give me some pizza, please. Get away with that green stuff.
Yeah. They don't want to go to the salad bar. What I like seeing is when cooking with kids, I cooked with them a lot, and I hate to cook.
Oh, no.
But it is actually, my kid is now a really good cook as an adult, and I just remember them bringing in. You got the food, but you also got the lesson, the geography, where it came from. So there were so many elements to help you understand, kind of the process of how food is made, but where it comes from and the traditions.
And they still do that, which is really terrific. And I actually met with Shauna Woodworth, who's working with Cooking with Kids. We actually both worked at PED together. So
Oh, nice.
It's really fun to still be working together. But we're going to come up with a plan for this whole school year for their taste testing so we can use local, fresh, what's in season, and perhaps introduce a recipe at the same time. So we've started to work on that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And I think it'll be a lot of fun for the kids too.
Because I remember that when the kids liked something a lot, they would try to adapt it for the cafeteria, so then the whole school would get it.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes. And what they cook is simple. It's easy. It's fresh. It's colorful. They try and use all your senses. It smells good. It's
and then kids
it's
would
crunchy.
they might take that home.
Correct.
So that's something, if you're used to eating pizza at home, maybe you're going to have,
Yes.
a homemade pasta, not the pasta part, but the homemade sauce with pasta and vegetables, lots of vegetables in it or something.
Yes, and I'm still fairly new to Santa Fe. I've only been here for 5 years, but in Colorado, I used to also do some part-time work for an organization called Cooking Matters, which I think is now in New Mexico. It's now in Santa Fe. And what they do is really wonderful. They get whole families involved, and the family comes in. It's usually mom with the kids or dad with the kids. It depends. And they get to cook an easy, nutritious recipe that they get to sample. But they also go home with a recipe and a bag of groceries to make that.
Oh, I like that.
And that was so good because that really was an incentive to use those fresh veggies, yellow squash. I've never used, what is that?
That's right. No.
So,
and it's really important that we emphasize cooking skills, because if you don't learn to cook at home, you don't cook. And there's so many people that are parents now that didn't learn to cook as children. Right. So they're really struggling. Like everyone says, I'm tired when I come home, I can't cook. Well, if you know how to cook, it takes 20 minutes to put a quick, simple meal together. Like, I know how to do that. I don't want to do that. But, my mom was an actual short order cook. So I saw her cook and work full time my whole life. It really isn't that hard, but you have to know what you know. And having 50 recipes in your head helps.
It does. And for me, I've been cooking since I was a little kid. So it's second nature. But I also was a culinary instructor at Colorado Mesa University for 20 years. And so I've seen a ton of students come through. And my favorite thing to do was, which they hated, unfortunately, was to give them what's called a market basket, which is a basket of ingredients. You have a squash, you have an onion, you have a zucchini, you have, a piece of chicken. Make something.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. And I said, you have that every day when you open your refrigerator. It's the same thing. You look in, it's like, what do I have in here that I can make something out of?
Right. And even teaching things like how to shop so that you buy things that are ingredients.
Right. Yeah.
And the whole notion of processed versus ultra processed. And because not that it's the school's responsibility to make kids healthy, but we're in a food unhealthy environment in this country, and schools are one of the places where you get good nutrition regularly. And how do you take that lesson and spread it to their lives? I mean, that seems important.
And hopefully they take some of that with them. Several of the schools, I think it's just the high schools, have a program called Pro Start, which is a culinary program that kids can enroll in. And it's phenomenal because you get knife skills, you learn how to organize, your station. You learn so much that you can actually take into a job when you get out of school. They do a competition every year, Pro Start, which is from the whole state. It was at the conference center, I want to say February. I can't remember, but I went. And the public can go and take a look. And it's fantastic to see what those kids have done in 2 or 3 months and the dishes that they turn out. It's restaurant worthy. I mean, just incredible things. But that's a skill that you can learn in school for free, which is wonderful. And they, if they could take that with them, that's fantastic.
That's right. And even if they just take it to their own kitchen so they can fix food for their kids in, 5 or 10 years, that's a plus.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. We'll take a break and be right back with another segment of Conversations Different.
Thanks, Inez. This is Patrick Dorsey, publisher of the Santa Fe New Mexican. We hope you're enjoying this episode of Conversations Different with Inez Russell Gomez. Great local content is only possible with a talented staff dedicated to bringing you the best local content possible. For that staff to do its work, we need your support by subscribing to the Santa Fe New Mexican. If you're already a subscriber, thank you. And if not, there's never been a better time to subscribe. In addition to our home-delivered newspaper that comes with full digital access, we also provide digital-only subscriptions for SantaFeNewMexican.com. We'll also be releasing more online-only audio and video programming moving forward. The Santa Fe New Mexican has been here for nearly 175 years, and we want to continue being your source for local news and information. Visit us at SantaFeNewMexican.com/subscribe or call us at 505-986-3010. Thank you.
We are back with Conversations Different, talking to Deanna, who is nutrition director at the Santa Fe Public Schools. Talk about what is going to happen in your first year. What do you expect for the your role and for the food in the cafeterias and all the kids?
Boy, that's a big one. I'm going to take it 1 month at a time because there's so many different things that happen each month out of the year. But I definitely want to work towards being totally compliant for Senate Bill 4, the new bill that our governor signed, and I think we can do that. So my plan is to work with each kitchen manager and their team individually. I'm going to go and I call it a SWOT analysis, strength, weaknesses, and I want to go into the kitchens and see how I can help them. I believe in servant leadership, and so what can I do for you? And I think if we all work together towards the same goal, which is, feeding our kids great food, I think we can really achieve something great. So what I want to do is be part of the team, and hopefully they're okay with me coming in. I unfortunately don't speak Spanish, so it's going to be a bit of a hindrance. I speak French. That doesn't help at all.
They're both Romance languages.
I know,
maybe the roots will help.
Except for culinary terms,
Yes.
I can tell you why things are called, why you saute. That means to jump. So you make things jump in your frying pans.
Oh, that's why it never works for me. I just move it around.
Oh, you know what? practice with a piece of toast.
Okay.
In a fry pan. Flip that piece of toast.
Okay, I'm going to do that.
That's gonna help you tremendously. So, for me, it's really to get an awesome team together behind all. We can do it. All the rules and regs are easy to follow if we do it step by step. I think people will read the whole thing and go, "Oh, there's so much," but you have choices, which is really great. You don't have to do everything. So I think picking what our kitchens are best at and what they're more comfortable with, I think we'll really succeed. So I'm excited about getting that moving forward. And then next school year, when that starts, we are going to be on it.
Oh, I like that. It's always good when there's changes instead of being afraid of them to embrace them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not that bad. It really isn't.
How much of what they get now is processed? Like at breakfast, do you get like a muffin that's really not that great comparatively, those kinds of things?
And, breakfast is the toughest meal for us because we're really restricted in how many hours everybody can work because of budgets.
Right.
Like anywhere, budgets are cut all the time. And when our team comes in, in the morning, they usually have maybe 45 minutes to get everything ready for breakfast. And sometimes it's not, as I say, we have satellites, so it's not just for their school and another school. So baking from scratch is really hard unless they can do it the night before or the afternoon before, because everybody has to be gone by 2:30 or 3. And so that is the meal that we all struggle with the most. I have some great recipes for monkey bread, actually, you can, this is my favorite, actually, you cook your pancakes in a sheet pan, like a cookie sheet.
Okay.
You just pour the batter on there, and they're square because you cut your pancake square, but at least you have a homemade pancake instead of a pancake on a stick, which is processed. So we're going to try and bring some of those recipes into the district if we have time. That's the goal. But the breakfast is really tough. That's why a lot of it, although there's a really great cookie, it's a breakfast cookie called an Uber, UBR. I forget what the letters stand for. That's extremely nutritious, but it's not as sweet. It's not sweet like stuff you get in the store, unfortunately. So we're going to try and bring a few more homemade things.
Yeah. I guess you can't hard boil, 1,000 eggs every day because that'd be almost impossible and expensive and everything else.
We can hard boil them. It's the peeling.
Yes.
That's hard.
No, and kids don't like to do that.
And they don't like to do that. Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if they'd eat baked eggs, if you could bake a bunch. I've been reading books, and everyone in the book is eating a baked egg for breakfast, and I realize I don't even know what that is. But it would be peeled, and you could do it all at once in the ovens.
You could. There are some Middle Eastern dishes. One is called shakshuka, which is actually like a bed of greens and tomatoes. So it's really healthy for you.
Yum.
And you break the eggs in there and you bake it. So the egg is baked into, but I don't know if kids would want veggies for breakfast. I do, but I'm an oddball. I know that.
Yeah, but maybe that I don't know if it would help them, but it's really, I mean, when you think about the new research that's coming out, especially with ultra processed, because most foods we eat are processed in some way.
To a certain respect, yes.
But ultra processed is that extra where you have a bunch of ingredients, a lot of additives, and it's one of the reasons people are getting sick earlier with weird diseases, I think.
Correct. And, for breakfast, so a lot of our schools make scrambled eggs, and so we do get eggs that are already broken and mixed in a bag. But the only thing that's in there are eggs and a little bit of citric acid, which citric acid, if you think about it, it's like sour cream, anything that has a little acid to it. And the only reason they have to add that is when you cook the eggs, if you don't have a little acid in there, they'll turn green. And they're really
no one would like
not
that.
Appealing at all.
Yeah.
So the egg, even though they're processed, they're already broken up and they have a little of that. So it's still a really nice fresh egg, but it is... We get some help. We have to get help somewhere. Or, the frozen veggies are just veggies. There's no salt, nothing added to them. We can make sauces and we can add some sauces to it, but we still get something, it's to help your future self. If you have to cook 1,000 lunches and you have to get, broccoli ready for everybody. If you had to do it from fresh, it would be
impossible.
With the staff we have, it is, we don't have enough staff.
Well, one of the things about frozen foods that people forget is that they flash freeze them right at the height of nutrition. So they're actually pretty nutritious and they're very cheap.
exactly.
So, you know, when I'm broke, I know I always would get the 10 bags for $10 or something, and that would feed us for, you know, a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we do use a lot of frozen veggies. We try and use seasonal when we can, but it's about 3 times the cost of the frozen veggies that we get, which are, as you say, flash frozen right when it's best. So the broccoli is green. It's, you know, it has all this nutrition.
And you add that yellow cheese and everybody's commodity cheese is the best, even if it's not nutritious.
Yeah,
it's yummy though.
However, it has changed. It is now low sodium.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. It's still, we still get cheese from commodities, but it is a much better product. Actually, when I was in Grand Junction, we tried to make mac and cheese with white cheddar.
Ooh.
The kids wouldn't touch it.
Oh, that's funny.
Because of the color.
Yeah.
And so, you know, people would come to me, the managers, and say, you know, you have to do something about the mac and cheese. They used to love it. Now that you've created this, you know, it doesn't work. So I used the same recipe, and I used annatto, which is a spice. You know, it's a powder that adds color.
Kind of like using turmeric or something.
Like turmeric,
Yeah.
except it doesn't have the flavor that turmeric has. And so I just bought annatto, and we added a spoonful and a half or whatever annatto. The mac and cheese with yellow, and we're like, oh, the kids love the new recipe. And I'm like, yes.
Oh, I love it.
So you have to use tricks every now and then. But yeah, annatto is totally natural.
So you're actually using cheese and not cheese product.
Correct.
Yeah, that was the first time I realized that what I really loved was cheese food and not cheese. It was kind of sad, but you know, there's something about that drippy stuff. You know, the flat pizzas, which I think are probably not good for you either. But those were good. Yeah.
Well, some of that cheese it's really like 50% oil, so it's not dairy.
Right.
Cheddar cheese is, and that's why it melts so beautifully, you know, and it flows because it's oil.
Yeah. No, I read about that, and I was like, wow. At one time, one of my cousins was in charge of handing out commodity cheese, and for some reason, he stored it in my aunt's garage, like her little shed. So people would come and get the cheese from the shed, and every time you'd visit my aunt, she would give you cheese to take home. So we used to eat, you know, a decent amount of it. Yeah, that's funny. Anyway,
but it tastes good like Velveeta, unfortunately.
Do you? Oh, it does. It does. Do you plan like the first day of school menus? Is that like a special, like, you know, something yummy for lunch or?
Not the first day, because since the schools have been closed, they're, you know, for the summer, except for the ones that do summer meals, it's a lot harder for them to get up to speed and to have all the ingredients on hand. So we usually keep it fairly simple. It's still stuff that the kids love, you know, some stir fries, of course, burgers, and, you know, those, or spaghetti. So, but it's not a super special. We keep those for a little later on when we get, you know, in September, that's
school lunch week
or something like that. Yeah. And so there we're trying to do some really, really special things. So the first few days of school are, you know, probably, unfortunately, a little boring to the kids, but it's still good homemade food. It's just we don't have all the products in the kitchens. You know, they haven't had anything in their walk-in cooler or freezer.
Okay. So you're being basic but healthy.
Correct.
And then you kind of gear up as you go. Yeah. And then, of course, you have the big Thanksgiving where all the families come and eat, and you feed the whole town practically.
Yes. You know, I actually volunteered for a couple of those Thanksgiving lunches last year, which was a great experience. But I went to El Camino, who usually serves about 700-800 students, but we served 1,200 people that day.
Oh my goodness.
It was incredible, you know, and everything went smoothly, and, you know, they made a special pumpkin cake. It was great. It was wonderful. Everybody just loved it.
That's good. Well, it's always nice when parents can go to school and have lunch with their kids and see that everything's going well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. We'll be back next week with another Conversations Different.